Good morning, everybody. We are in review this week for the last 9 weeks, plus a little bit more. We had Easter right in there. And so we studied in the Old Testament, and we started with Gideon in the book of
Judges.
Yes, in the book of Judges, chapter 6 and 7. And what did we learn about Gideon?
In the old.
Yep, it's in the Old Testament. What did we learn about him? That God gave him the courage and the strength to defeat the Midianites. That's right. Yeah, and we read about that in Judges 6 and 7. In lesson 72, we go on to read about a man named
Samuel.
No.
Samson.
Samson. That's right. And Samson was special. He was a judge, and he had what? He was strong. Yeah. Who made him strong?
God.
What was his secret? He had never
Cut his hair.
cut his hair.
But I have.
Yeah, you got a haircut this week, didn't you, kid?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
We can go to the hairdresser now.
yeah, and I lost these front teeth, and they won't even recognize me.
No, We're all gonna look different when we get to see each other again.
Yeah.
Well, what happened to Samuel's hair? It got cut, didn't it? Who cut it?
This girl.
Do you remember what her name was? Delilah.
And
Yeah.
she was a Philistine.
She was on the enemies.
Yeah.
And she
And then she found out his secret, and then she told the others.
She betrayed him, didn't she?
Yeah.
And so that made
That
Samuel.
means they lie when they're saying they're on your side, but they betrayed them by going on the enemy's side.
Yeah.
And then they just try to lie about it.
Yeah.
And they try to use whatever they use.
Yeah. But what happened to Samson in the end? He
got his strength.
God gave him strength to push down the pillars supporting the building, killing all the people, all the enemies inside. So God gave Samson strength.
Probably even Delilah for betraying him.
Well, she was, maybe. I need to read further into that. All right, lesson 73. We read about a lady named, remember? She has her own book. Her name is Ruth. Yes. And you know what? We discovered that Ruth was the great-grandmother of who? That we're studying right now. Or we're going to be studying. Remember? Who are we studying about? King Saul. We're going to start. He was the second one that's going to be king. We've been to David. Yeah, King David. And David was in Jesus's family line. So Ruth was actually a very great grandmother. Lots of greats in there of who? Jesus, right. And we read about her in what book? The book of?
Judges.
She's got her own book. The book of?
Ruth.
That's right. And then we're going to move on to lesson 74, which we get into a new book. The book of First. Come on back here. Samuel. Come back, sit up here. First Samuel. That's
cutting
right.
me off.
We'll move over here. Come get in the picture, Caleb. There we go. He's moving his chair over here. Alrighty. The book of First Samuel. In the book of First Samuel, chapter 2, we read about how Samuel was dedicated to go help the priest Eli at the temple. And he had a special calling. And who was calling him one night? Was it
God.
Eli? Yep, it was God. God himself. And God made Samuel a prophet and a priest and a judge to help lead Israel. But then we get reading on, and the people of Israel don't want the judges to be the leaders. They want a
Leader.
They want a what? That starts with a K.
Chaos.
No, they don't want chaos, but you know what? That's probably it. What ended up being, they want a king. A king, yes, they want a king. And so God said, okay, you want a king? I'm going to give you a king. And so who did Samuel pick? What was his name? Saul. He picked Saul.
But Saul was not a good king.
That's right.
So they moved on. So they did.
We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Yeah. So Saul. Yep. That's right. Saul looked like he'd be a good king, but he didn't end up being a good king, did he? He made some pretty bad decisions.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like in the cookie illustration we did, we thought that really pretty cookie was going to be really good to eat, but it turned out to be really bad to eat.
Yeah.
And the plain cookie was
Better.
better. And that's just like David and Saul. Saul was good looking and handsome, and David was just a little shepherd boy that kept sheep for his family, and he ended up being a good king. Because of why? Because of his heart. God looks. What does God say that he looks at instead of at person's outward appearance?
Their heart.
He looks at their heart, at their inward appearance. Alrighty, and then in lesson 77, that's the lesson that is very famous in the Bible. Lots of people know about it. And what is it? On David and I skipped over lesson 76 where Samuel chooses David. And we just sort of talked about that just a minute ago, that God looks at the inward appearance, not the outward. And so Samuel found David to be the king and anointed him to be the king after David, or Saul. Oh, man. So then we move on to lesson 77, which is a famous lesson in the Bible about David and Goliath. And God gave David the power to defeat
him.
Yes, to defeat Goliath. How?
With only one smooth stone,
That's
he took in
right.
the sling and then swinged it around and then stopped it.
Yes.
And then it went up in the air and a giant came tumbling down.
And God gave David the strength to do that, didn't
Yeah.
he? And to protect the people of Israel.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the Philistines defeated that was Goliath,
Mhm.
was a big bully.
Yes, he was. He was about 10 feet tall, wasn't he? He was a
Yeah.
big giant.
And he was making fun of the people.
Now, how did he do it? With one smooth stone. That's right. Let's sing about it. You want to sing our song about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Only a boy named David, only a little sling. Only a boy named David, but he could pray and sing. Only a boy named David, only a rippling brook. Only a boy named David, yet 5 smooth stones he took. And one little stone went into the sling, and the sling went round and round. And one little stone went into the sling, and the sling went round and round. Oh, round and round, round and round, round and round and round. And one little stone went up in the air, and the giant came tumbling down. Oh my goodness. And David defeated Goliath, and he proved that God was in control, and God was taking care of the Israelites, and he was really the king, wasn't he? Not anybody else. All right, then we moved on to lesson 78, where we learned about King Saul's son named, remember his name? Jonathan, and he and David were good friends. In fact, Jonathan's dad, King Saul, got really jealous of David because David was going to be the next king. And you know, Jonathan could have been jealous of him because Jonathan could have been the next king, because usually your son becomes
the next
king.
Royalty.
But it was going to be David because David was anointed by Samuel.
Yeah.
And so we learn about the friendship of David and Jonathan, and how Jonathan protected David from his own father, King Saul.
Because he told him to hide everywhere that his father didn't know about.
Yes. And this lesson comes in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 18, 19, and 20. And so we read about the good friendship they had, and how Jonathan protected David from his angry dad and jealous dad. And that anger and jealousy made Saul do awful things. And David remained faithful to God. Alrighty, and then in lesson 79, we read how Saul's jealousy got so bad that he just wanted to kill David, and he wanted to get rid of David. And David had to run.
He wanted to murder him.
Yeah, he probably did. And if you killed somebody, that was breaking a commandment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The 6th commandment says, "Thou shalt not
kill."
Right.
Or murder.
And that was a guideline that God had for the Israelites, and Saul would have been really breaking that commandment if he had killed David. So David ran off, and God protected him. In fact, Saul went after him, and David had chances to even kill Saul, but did he do it? No, he didn't. He spared Saul's life because he knew what was right, and he wanted to make right decisions. And Saul was so sinful, and his heart was so wicked that he was going to try to kill David instead. But David spared his life, and we read about that in 1 Samuel 21, 22, 23, and 24.
And he also tried to kill him when he was asleep.
That's right.
In a tent.
He could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have, but he didn't. It's David. You're talking about David. Yep. Yeah. So we are going to continue on learning about what happens next in the book of 1 Samuel about David and how he continued on. So, we'll be starting the next unit next week. So, today was just a review, and I hope you have your lesson sheets at home that you can refer to and have pictures of these lessons that we've just had. So, well, we'll talk to you later. You ready?
Yeah.
For church?
Yeah.
It's going to be on in a few minutes. So I'm a little late posting this today. But we'll talk to you later. Bye for now. Can we pray? You want to pray for us, Kayla?
Yes.
Can you thank God for protecting us in your prayer? Okay. Go ahead and pray for us.
Dear Lord, thank you for another day, and thank you for protecting us, and thank you for sending your son to die, and then rise 3 days later, and thank you for the water that you've been making, and thank you for the grass that you made for us to have, and thank you for the toys that you made people to make, for toys to make love, and happiness is really important, and thank you for everything and everyone, and be with us as this coronavirus goes around, and please have you make a husband for mom and a dad for me and my sister, and thank you for everything. In the name of the Lord prayed. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. All right. We'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye.